do Florida Report with my sister every Friday. And I know some of you were like, but you're not doing a Friday show anymore. And you were like, what's going to happen to Florida Report? Well, I'm happy to tell you that Florida Report is here to stay. It will now be on Thursday. So let's get to our segment, Florida Report.
It's not even controversial anymore.
People know in Florida their freedoms are going to be respected.
Miranda, hello. I see you're back in Florida.
I am back in Florida.
Thanks for coming up to assist us with our expansion and everything else. You were a busy bee.
I was, and you guys are still busy, so the fight continues.
Yeah, I was telling you before you got on, I'm like, let's just go. I'm in a mood today. I'm just stressed out. So I feel like since you're my sister, but also our guest, I can just tell you that.
It's true.
Yeah. So it's been interesting in Florida. I've been the site of some interesting political news. I don't know if you heard, Donald Trump and a bunch of charges, etc. Before I get to the story that we have lined up for today, it was like craziness outside Mar-a-Lago when the Trump came back, when Trump came back.
Yeah, they really show up in numbers to show support to Trump and in physical person too. It's pretty impressive, to be honest with you. And I'm not even a fan of Trump, but I'm fairly impressed by how strong his fan base is.
One could even say that they're loyal, which is what the Trump campaign is now demanding of supporters of Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, the Trump campaign, in an email sent earlier this week to DeSantis donors, it was obtained by Fox News. It emphasized that now is the time to demonstrate your support and join Team 47 early. The two things the memo illustrates are the president's huge numbers and Governor Ron DeSantis' collapsing numbers. And that's a direct quote from the email that was sent out. DeSantis still hasn't announced his bid, but Trump has. And I think all this stuff going on in the news is actually might have tightened his supporters' support for him. But he's definitely making sure that his, financial backers know that he's still in the race and they should show loyalty to him moving forward with their donations.
Yeah, I don't like this idea that you have to be loyal to me, but that's been big for Trump, his issue of loyalty. But also, I think that both things can be true. I think you can have Republicans who don't like what's happening to Trump, but who also don't want him to be president. And I actually see a lot of that. And even some moderates who very much distance themselves from Donald Trump, like Rep. Nancy Mace. She's even said, look, I'm not a Trump fan, but I just am looking at these charges and I'm just not sure there's a there there. And so, yeah, I don't think you have to be the loyalty. You have to decide either it's Ron DeSantis or Donald Trump. And there's a lot of Republicans who aren't going to pick and will probably stick with DeSantis, but speak up for Donald Trump. Let's see. You guys have a bill that actually has bipartisan support down in Florida, pretty overwhelming bipartisan support. And this is interesting because Mike and I live in an HOA, so I'm very intrigued by this. It would prohibit HOAs from prohibiting certain kinds of flags from being flown.
Correct. This bill in particular, and this bill actually comes after a couple lawsuits happened across the state. One, somebody filed a lawsuit against his HOA because they asked him to take down his Black Lives Matter flag, and that one's still being litigated. There was another case that, the homeowner actually came out on top where they asked him to take his police support flag, the one with the thin blue line on it, down. And he actually won that case. And I think that kind of prompted this whole situation. This bill specifically protects homeowners' right to display the U.S. flag, Florida flags supporting law enforcement and other first responders, as well as the flags of our country's military branches. But it does not it will still allow HOAs to prohibit the display of other flags like those representing LGBTQ communities, causes like Black Lives Matter. And in addition to that, flags supporting political candidates will still be up for debate in different HOAs, depending on their own rules and restrictions.
So I agree with part of this. In our HOA, I think is pretty strict, and we can't have, for instance, signs in the ground of political candidates actually in our yard. But what bothers me about this law is I'm totally American flag, great. The flags of our military branches, great. Flag of Florida, great. Now, I'm not against Blue Lives Matter flags or the thin blue line at all. Absolutely not against them at all. But I think when you're explicitly allowing that, but not other, like a BLM flag or an LGBTQ flag, I feel like that's when it gets into picking and choosing causes. So I think the law should protect the things that are very obvious, like, okay, the American flag. But then when they start to get a little more specific, I think that's where it loses me and sort of your First Amendment rights and your right as a homeowner. So I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I'm in the same boat as you. I mean, it shouldn't be, supporting police shouldn't be always a political thing either. Like that's their job, and I think it's totally fine. I don't think anybody would say anything about a firefighter support flag outside, but I think the Blue Lives Matter, the thin blue line flags would probably always create some sort of debate within a community. And it does suck that it's like that. So I'm with you. I don't really know how I feel about it. I'm kind of in and out about it, but the bill only has one more committee stop in both the Senate and the House, and the 4 committees that it's already passed through, there's only one vote for no. So it seems that people that are in charge of making the decisions think this is totally fine.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not outraged by it, but I do think that besides the obvious ones, and maybe just like American flag, Florida flag, besides that, I think you have to be either all in or all out, because then when you start to limit and pick and choose, that's where you get into trouble, and that's where people are like, that's not fair, and people get triggered, etc. All right, Miranda, good to see you. We miss you here in Washington, but I'm glad you're back in sunny Florida.
Yes, it's nice and warm here. I do miss you guys, but not the rain.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
It's not even controversial anymore.
People know in Florida their freedoms are going to be respected.